You already know what tonight is going to look like. You'll get into bed exhausted, genuinely, bone-tired exhausted. You'll close your eyes. And then, right on cue, your brain will clear its throat and say, "Actually, can we talk about that thing you said in 2019? And you'll lie there, ceiling staring back at you, running mental simulations of conversations that haven't happened, replaying moments that can't be changed, and quietly auditing every decision you've made in the last decade. Here's what nobody says out loud. That's not anxiety. That's not weakness. And it's definitely not something that a lavender candle is going to fix. By the end of this video, you'll understand something about yourself that most people spend their entire lives never figuring out. Why your brain does this, where it came from, and what it's actually trying to protect you from. Picture this. It's a Tuesday night. Doesn't matter what year. Could be right now. You've had a full day. Work, people, decisions, maybe a difficult email you're still not sure you responded to correctly. You've watched something mindless to decompress. You've done everything right. And then you turn the lights off, and your brain, your brilliant, relentless, exhausting brain, decides that 11:47 p.m. is the perfect time to ask, but did you handle that situation with your friend 3 weeks ago the right way? What did she mean by that? What if she's still upset? Should you text her? No, don't text her. It's almost midnight. But what if she thinks you don't care? And here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not random. It's not a glitch. It's a deeply intelligent system doing exactly what it was designed to do at exactly the wrong time. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people with high levels of what researchers call repetitive negative thinking aren't actually less rational than everyone else. They're more thorough. Their brains are running more thorough risk assessments, more complete social simulations. They're just doing it at 11 p.m. when the world has finally gone quiet and there are no distractions left to drown it out. Translation: you overthink at night, not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain finally has the silence it needs to do the work it's been trying to do all day. And there's a neuroscience layer to this. Harvard researchers studying the brain's default mode network, the system that activates when you're not focused on external tasks, found that in overthinkers, this network is significantly more active and more connected. Your brain doesn't idle. It processes, it rehearses, it protects. That's not a disorder. That's a highly tuned survival system. But here's the thing. Survival systems don't care about your sleep schedule. So where did this come from? Because you weren't born lying awake running social autopsies at midnight. Something built this. When you were around 7 or 8 years old, you started to notice something. That the world wasn't always safe to be unprepared in. Maybe it was a household where moods shifted without warning, where you learned to read the room before you walked into it. Maybe it was a school environment where saying the wrong thing had social consequences that felt enormous. Maybe it was just the particular alchemy of being a sensitive child in an unpredictable world. By the time you were 12, you'd gotten very good at something most people never develop: anticipating. Running the scenarios before they happened, pre-living conversations so you weren't caught off guard. That skill, that exhausting, brilliant skill, kept you safe. It helped you navigate. It made you perceptive in ways other people simply weren't. And then, by your late teens and 20s, it was automatic, especially at night, because night was always when the armor came off. Night was when the performance of being okay paused, and your nervous system finally had space to surface everything it had been quietly cataloguing all day. Your overthinking isn't a personality flaw. It's a learned adaptation that once served you very well. But wait, there's a darker side to this. Here's what's fascinating. The very system that makes you perceptive, empathetic, and socially intelligent also makes it nearly impossible for your brain to accept good enough. And this explains why you can have a genuinely great day and still spend 45 minutes before sleep dissecting the one moment that felt slightly off. Not because you're pessimistic, because your risk detection system doesn't turn off just because things went well. It keeps scanning, just in case. This explains why you'll replay a conversation, not because you think you did something wrong, but because there's a 4% chance you might have, and your brain treats 4% like a 5-alarm fire. This explains why you'll rehearse a difficult conversation 17 times before it happens. Not because you're anxious in the clinical sense, but because somewhere deep in your wiring, preparation feels like protection. And this explains why compliments slide off you like water, but one critical comment gets replayed on loop for 3 days. Your brain isn't being cruel to you. It's doing triage. It's flagging the thing it perceives as the greatest threat to your safety. Social, emotional, professional, and refusing to move on until it's resolved. The exhausting part? Most of the things it flags can't actually be resolved at midnight. But your brain doesn't know that. It just knows there's unfinished processing, and it will stay awake to finish it. And this explains everything about your relationships too. Because here's what the people in your life see. Someone who seems distant at night, who sometimes seems consumed by invisible things, who needs longer to come down after social events, who processes out loud or goes completely silent, and they don't always understand it. Society has a very clean narrative about this. It calls it anxiety. It prescribes deep breathing and digital detoxes and tells you to journal your worries into a box and close the lid. And while those things aren't wrong, they're just missing the point. While everyone else is switching off, you're still integrating, still making meaning, still connecting dots between things that happened today and things that happened years ago. That's not dysfunction. That's depth. The people who built entire philosophical frameworks, who wrote the novels, who made the breakthroughs, they were rarely the ones who fell asleep easily. They were the ones who couldn't stop turning the thing over until it made sense. Your brain at midnight isn't broken. It's working overtime on things that matter to you. And that capacity to care that deeply, to think that thoroughly, to feel that completely, is rare. What I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds reframes everything. The truth is, overthinking before sleep isn't a sign of a weak mind. It's the tax your brain pays for being genuinely invested in your life. It's what happens when you're wired to care. About people, about doing things right, about not causing harm, about being understood and understanding others. Every scenario you run at midnight is, at its core, an act of love for the people in your life, for your future self, for the version of you that's trying very hard not to repeat the mistakes of the past. That doesn't make it comfortable, but it does make it make sense. So tonight, when you're lying in the dark and the courtroom opens for business, don't fight it. Don't shame it. Just say, I see what you're doing. I know why you're here, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And then we're going to sleep. Because you've already done enough today. The mind that won't let you rest is the same mind that makes you extraordinary when you're awake, and you've spent long enough treating your greatest strength like something that needs to be fixed. If this resonated with something you've never quite been able to explain about yourself, you'll want to watch this next video, because we go even deeper into why highly sensitive overthinkers form the relationships they do, and why it almost always follows the same pattern.